How we doing, folks? My guest today is going to be U.S. Ski Team Freestyle Sport Director Matt Gnoza. And in this episode, we go through and discuss Matt's journey. We talk about how Matt got into freestyle skiing and eventually how he transitioned from athlete to coach for Killington, eventually becoming the program director there. Then Matt took his talents to the U.S. Ski Team in 2014, becoming the C Team coach. Matt quickly became the head coach for the U.S. Ski Team from 2015 to 2022. During Matt's time there, the ski team had several successes, World Championships medals, 2 Nations Cups, and an Olympic medal. After 2022, Matt transitioned to his current role as the Freestyle Sport Director. We talk about several different highs, lows, passions, and what continues to drive Matt today. It was a lot of fun having this conversation with him, and I'm really happy he was able to take the time, and I really hope you folks enjoy this episode. Thanks. Matt, thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
No problem. Fun to be here.
Yeah, I've really been looking forward to it. You know, you did the USSS Winter Speaker Series, I think last winter or maybe the winter before.
Yeah.
And that was a really good listen on YouTube to kind of get a little bit of background and understanding of kind of your thought process towards the sport and everything else. So I really appreciated that. I guess podcast, right? Little web series they're kind of doing.
It's kind of been ever since taking over this role. It's been one of my kind of goals is to get more transparency into our processes and stuff in the U.S. So it was fun to do that.
Yeah,
Fun to do that. I've been doing a lot of other speaker series stuff. I don't know what you can find on the Google machine. But there's a lot of other stuff with Olympic Committee stuff.
Yeah,
some stuff out there with those guys too. So it's been enjoyable.
Very
kind of
cool.
like this next phase of your career.
Kind of transitioning through, but I guess let's bring it back to the start. And just before we had got on, I learned we're fellow alumni of Freestyle International. So how did you kind of find your way into freestyle?
Ski Magazine.
Started
with Ski Magazine, came in the mailbox, and in the back there was an ad for Freestyle International ski camps. Come here, learn to ski moguls. I remember vividly it said learn a Daffy and a 360, and I said that's what I want to do. And so begged my parents for entire season to go. I think a whole year later, I had worked construction in Boston for my uncle's company for years. Saved up enough money, convinced my parents I'd pay for half of it, and they went for it.
Oh, okay.
They sent me. So that was it. And that's what I knew of freestyle. I used to go to summer camps through my high school years. When I got old enough, I grew up in Massachusetts, in a small town called West Newbury, Massachusetts, and on the North Shore, just below New Hampshire, just south of New Hampshire.
Gotcha.
Basically, New Hampshire, Massachusetts
right on
state
the border
line, on the coast, on the border, right?
Oh, very cool.
Right there, once I got old enough to get my driver's license, had saved up enough money again to buy my Rossi 4Ms and had bought a small Isuzu pickup truck.
Okay.
And my parents let me drive up to Loon, and I did the Loon program for a couple weekend trials. And then when I was at the Loon program, I had met a bunch of people that were affiliated with Waterville.
Okay.
And that seemed to be more of a fit for me. One couple exits closer on Ski 93.
Those are important.
So I went there, and in that next winter, I joined the Waterville team. And skied Waterville. And when we skied Waterville, Nick back then and Susie used to have to do it all, right? So you did your moguls, you did your acro, and you did your aerials, or back then it was upright, right, to get you kind of going into that direction. So we did all that. I actually never competed the acro. I was pretty crafty at always coming up with some type of excuse to never have to do it.
I can't go today.
But I definitely had my yellow Sony Walkman that I used to clip to your belt.
What was the song? Did you have a song of choice?
It was something from AC/DC.
Okay,
I remember that. I can't remember. For Those About to Rock, maybe, or something like that.
Good.
And that was it. Graduated high school in, what did I just tell you, 91. 1991. Knew I wanted to ski, went up to Green Mountain College in Poultney, Vermont, because I took out a map and started, of course we didn't have Google and all that then, so took out a map, found Killington or other ski areas, and started like figuring out what colleges were in proximity.
Okay.
Green Mountain was 40 minutes away from Killington, so I said, okay, I can go there and kind of do that. I wanted no part of college, but my parents were like, you must go.
You must go to.
So
Gotcha.
did that, got to college, and after a couple of years of trying to compete and keep college, and then realizing I was, middle of the pack kind of guy, went to tell D. Williams at the time, was the head coach of Killington. So I went in one day in the fall and said to Dee, hey, it's been fun and it's been real, but I'm done, I'm out. And I never forget, she went into the desk drawer and opened it, and she pulled out his season's pass for Killington, and she dangled it. I remember it swinging on the chain.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, if you work for me, you'll get one of these. And I said, work for you? To do what? She goes, you can coach, and I need some B coaches. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
To me, I'm middle of the pack A skier. I'm going to coach. Sure, fine. So I started coaching weekends while I was going to college, and balanced that through a couple years. Probably my junior and senior year in college, I coached weekends and would cover the B meets for Killington.
Gotcha. So they had bees even back then.
Yep.
So they had enough
we
of
had bees.
And Killington was kind of the mecca at that point, right? I mean, they had produced Des, Bobby, Chuck Martin, Liz McIntyre, Don. It was.
And we were moguls only. Dee, God rest her soul. She was moguls only.
No
moguls
interest
only.
in. Gotcha. That's pretty.
And that was it. Now, to me, that was the end all be all. To be affiliated with Killington and the winning and the history and the passion of it, it meant the world to me. I was failure was not an option.
Yeah.
Right? Once you got that job, it was failure's not an option. Right. You hoped every weekend, how many kids could you help get to the podium and all that kind of stuff.
Get them moving on through their career. So Dee was pretty influential in getting you to get kind of into the world of coaching and kind of.
Yeah.
Is she most to blame, or is it Ski Magazine to blame for the?
Dee's most to blame, and if you really look at our career paths. Other than when she was an athlete, when she came back into coaching and took over Killington, and we kind of met when I was first skiing for her, and then as a coach, she did a really good job mentoring us, right? As the B coach, I remember I had no affiliation with the A team. I had my little B group, which Mike Morris was part of my B group back then.
Wow.
That's one of the only ones I can remember.
Yeah.
I know of a couple others, but they long other left the sport. But I had my B group, and she still found opportunities. She did some really good mentoringship stuff. She took me to junior nationals as an assistant coach. So as the young weekend B coach, she gave me an opportunity to go with her. I want to say it was in Heavenly.
Okay.
When we had events there, and so we flew out to Heavenly, and we coached the kids, and you were right, and again you were hooked again. Oh, I want more of that.
Absolutely.
And so. And then the next year, you got to coach at nationals. We had a little rotation, and I had a co-coach in the same kind of situation. His name was Sam Petrecki.
Okay,
I remember that name.
Yeah, name sounds familiar.
I know he's still active in the mogul community, the Bumpapalooza.
Yeah,
I know he still attends some of those events. I haven't seen him in a couple of years, but that guy could rip, and we were kind of co-coaching together. And then Dee needed full-time coaches at the academy, Killington Mountain School. And so we had just added the B team to Killington Mountain School. So I became the head coach of the Killington Mountain School Bees. And back then we worked for Killington Resort. So we were resort employees. And our contracts would start November 1 and they would end April 1, and that was it. And in the meantime, I would work construction. In the summertime, I had my own little building business in Killington. So that was how I balanced it for years. Plus many, many nights tuning skis and fitting boots at Northern Ski Works in Killington.
Oh, okay, very cool.
So we did a lot of that to make the ends meet, just so you could coach.
Right.
And it always came back to, I'll do all this other stuff so I can go out there and coach.
Yeah.
Because that was just what drove me every day. Never had a problem putting the boots on and going out there in classic New England weather.
Ooh, it is the East Coast, man. You get good days. Some of that nice freezing rain.
Course building, all that. Yeah, my shoulders if they could tell a story of how many landings they've chopped and jumps they've built and moguls they've shoveled over. And oh man,
brutal back
someday
there.
they'll be replaced.
They'll be.
It'll be a little bit before we get there. But
so early on, then you didn't have too much of like the teaching or anything off hill, right? Because did you, as you move later on, I feel like that's one of the harder things, especially working with an academy like that, is you have to also be focused on the academics and in the classroom and everything else. I feel like, it's a very difficult dynamic to kind of work through, especially for most of those like East Coast clubs, SMS, Killington,
Right.
like Gould, a lot of those, they have the school academics to deal with as well compared to some of the programs out west. It seems like that would be difficult to kind of juggle as a coach when you're kind of focusing on some of those results, but then like you balance, hey, you're getting your homework done, your grades are a little bit bad.
Right.
This, like, it seems like that's a tricky thing to navigate.
Yeah, we were lucky in the beginning because the school, Killington Mountain School, was separate from Killington Resort, and we were resort employees. And I had been involved long enough. You to go back to D, right? Like D, I worked for D for 4 or 5 years in Killington together.
Yep.
And then she left for the national team,
US
right?
team.
She became the national team D team coach at that time. In the summer of 2001, prior to Salt Lake.
Okay.
So then she did a year and then was coaching at the Salt Lake games. I think she was in charge of like the forerunners at that event. And I think she had like Bloom and
I think that's when similar to in 2010 when I think Kingsbury like qualified in second with his forerun.
Right.
I think Cabral qualified in first with his forerun in 2002 at Deer Valley.
Yeah, and I think she had
like
Cabral and maybe Emiko Torito, I think, or someone. I knew there was a group in there, but I knew they were phenomenal, whoever they were. And so then Dee went to the team, and I was 23 at the time, and Killington was looking for a director, and it was actually Mike Morris' father, Dick Morris, who was on the board at Killington, and he kind of gave me the chance.
Very cool.
He was like, you know what, this guy, I'm going to make sure this guy can do it. Like, I'm going to make sure he doesn't fail. And he was kind of a role model for us and helped make sure that we were always keeping the train on the track. And that was it. They gave me that opportunity at 23, about to be 24. I took over the team. I remember I got my first email right at that point. The email was just coming out, and they were like, here's your official Killington email. And I remember finding like some information, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, I'm getting grossly underpaid. This is bullshit. And I wrote this email to my boss, and I was like, but I won't send it.
Yeah.
But somehow it's sent because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And literally, now I'm sitting in my new office in Killington, and the phone rings right away. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is my boss, Tracy Taylor. And I picked it up. Oh, hey, Tracy, what's up? Big guy, a new program director. I thought it was such a big deal. And he says, I need you in my office in 2 minutes. And back then, we were up on the mountain, and the admin offices were down the bottom of the hill. I remember running down that hill like, oh, he's going really...
Right, build me up. And
and he had the email printed out, and he said, "You need to explain this." I was like, "Well, how'd you get that?" Right? Like, it was a quick lesson on how technology and email and all that works. So it was kind of funny. But we were able to work through it.
Yeah,
we were able to work through it. I didn't get a raise for a couple of years, I think, because of that email, but. Yeah, that's it. Funny, I joke now with a lot of coaches coming in, like you should give me a call. I can help you negotiate salaries because I've got a lot of experience in that over the years.
Spend enough time there.
Yep.
And I mean, 20 years at Killington, right? 19 years from start to.
Yep. I was there 24 years if you count the weekend stuff.
The weekend. Wow,
and all
that's
that.
crazy.
So 24 years. Was there to help transition from the mountain to the school when we became kind of Killington Mountain School, who ran our competition programs. And so that's when, like you were talking about, when it really morphed, the academics and athletics really morphed for us at that point. And, you had to be the van driver, you had to do dorm duty, all that.
Crazy.
I kind of always had this like seniority, so I think I did one night of dorm duty in 24 years.
Yep. Well, that's good.
So
You have to
I
deal
can
with,
I can say that out loud now. I don't know how I escaped it.
Yeah, it
but
would have been tough dealing with Sterling and
Yeah,
Zemba and that whole
yeah,
crew back
yeah.
in the
Yep.
day. Yeah, bless your heart.
So yeah, it's changed a lot, but all for the better.
Yeah,
All for the better. Those guys are still kicking butt over there. They run a great program. So I mean, you go to Killington, you ski around, and there's knee patch pants everywhere.
yeah.
Right? There's just a passion. You got a ski shop like the Forerunner,
Hmm.
still in town,
So the
selling
Smiths,
mogul.
right? I think
Yeah,
Brian
yeah.
Smith,
Yep, Brian
right?
Smith's the
Yep, is still running it.
running the ship
Yeah,
there, and you walk in a ski shop like that, and there's just mogul skis all over the wall.
which
It's
is
you don't see that anywhere else in the
no,
world. So it's a
it's
unique
rare.
unique
Yeah,
place.
exactly. Yep,
Yeah,
it's
and you
still the.
mentioned the
Mhm.
legacy there, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the legacy's still there.
Hmm.
Like when someone like Zemba comes into town, people know. I'm sure if Sturl came back, they would know,
Yeah,
right? Like
no,
Hannah
absolutely.
Sore
Hannah
came.
Sore
Yeah,
would
if
come.
she
Yeah,
even
they
gets close to
definitely.
that place, the
Yep,
people are like, "Oh, we're ski with Hannah."
yep,
So
definitely.
it's kind of interesting, but definitely a cult and a culture there. Love to get back. I don't get back nearly enough, even though I live in southern Vermont, but it's
It's
good.
quite the spot. They had a full crew. So Tall and I, we were just in Hood a couple weeks ago, skiing for 3 or 4 days, and Pepe, Glenn, Nick Keating, they all had looked like a bunch of rippers going up at Hood, and I absolutely love going to Mount Hood because it always kind of brings me back to like Freestyle
Yeah,
International
yeah.
days and everything else. You're just some little kid, like, oh, who's that? Like, who.
Do you remember we'd go to that top chair,
Mhm.
but the moguls was on the skier's right of that chair?
The year I went, which was I went the last 2 years of the camp. The last
Okay.
year they did it at Mount Hood, and then the next year they did it in Whistler,
Okay.
Blackcomb. Yep. And everything was to the left, but it was kind of in the middle, where now they've kind of pushed everything off to
Way, yep.
those way
Yep.
over there. So it's a little bit more in the middle there. Yeah, but it's always fun going in there. I think Tall was like hiking after a couple of jumps, and the kids are like, how old are you? How old do you
Right.
think I
Yeah.
am? You got to be like 16 or something. It's like, yeah, that's my husband up on the
Right.
knoll up there. Oh, okay, you're 20. But yeah, always love going to, the Huck Shakes have gotten a little more expensive too
I bet they have.
over the
Yeah, I
years.
bet
Yeah,
they have. I had a
no,
chance
it's
to go up
crazy.
last year with the team.
Okay.
I filled in for a week of camp up there.
Gotcha.
Some coaches were looking for a little break, and kind of one of my missions, having been the head coach too, is to keep people engaged in the sport. I think it's something I've learned from D.
Right.
And I can recognize the challenges of being a coach, especially a coach with a young family, and so always willing to, because of my experiences, I can be a little bit more relieving for the staff
Sure.
and additive for them. So I can't remember why exactly, but I went up for a week last year and it was like, oh, this hasn't changed much
It's
in a
crazy.
while.
There are not many places
Yeah.
that like haven't changed too much. I mean, even like I feel like Killington's had some big changes on that access road, especially with the World Cup and everything
Sure,
coming
yeah,
into
yeah.
town. Like it's
Yeah.
not just like those lone little shops anymore. It's definitely developed a little bit
Yeah.
more. Where Hood, Govey's pretty similar. Other than Collins Lake was like the big thing that kind of came in, right? But
Yep.
yeah, it's crazy. So you spend all that time at Killington, and you make the transition and to the U.S. ski team in 2014 for the C team job. Was
Yep.
that a hard decision to make? Kids, everything back home, kind of on the East Coast, or did you feel like it was kind of you put your time in Killington and you were ready for a new challenge?
It hit me perfect timing.
Okay.
Right? Like everything just happened to be perfect timing. I had some life changes going on. My kids were pretty established down in the free ski program at Stratton Mountain School. They had said moguls was not their thing.
Yep.
But they decided they were at Stratton Mountain School successfully skiing down there and doing their thing. And so this opportunity kind of came up. And I was like, I've been to Killington for umpteen years. I had been the B coach, I had been the A coach, I had been the NORAM coach, the program director, the athletic director for the school, the competition services director up at the ski club, running their comp programs and in the events. And it was like, yeah, it's time to try this. And so the C team job was up, and I didn't apply. And it was actually Sturl and Zemba and some of those guys were kind of like fighting it out for the team and stuff here. And I brought a bunch of athletes out for a Project Gold camp
Okay.
And we were up at the UOP, and back then the Project Gold camps where you kind of came and coached your kids in
Okay.
front of
In
like the
front of
ski
the ski
team
team
coaches,
coaches?
and they
Okay.
would kind of
Interesting.
like chime in here and there and and help out. And Todd Sherman was in my role now then,
Okay.
and he said, "Hey, do you have time for lunch one of these days?" I was like, "Yeah, sure,
Right.
no problem." Um, and I said, "But not on Wednesday." And he said, "Well, why not on Wednesday?" I said, just not Wednesday, but let's do Thursday."
Yeah.
Well, Wednesday, when I was here, I remember I left Park City. We were staying right over there in Kimball. I think I left at like 5 in the morning and drove to Steamboat. And I had
Okay.
an interview in Steamboat to
Gotcha.
become the freestyle program director there.
Okay.
And so I had done the interview there. I was driving home from Steamboat, and Steamboat called me and said, "We want to hire you." And I said, "Okay, I need 48 hours to kind of think about this
process and
see when it's going." And then in the meantime, that next day I had lunch with Todd Sherman, and he asked me where my resume was and why I hadn't applied for the
ski team open role.
C team
Yeah.
position. I said, that's not for me. I'm not, I'm not of that level of coach, and you should, do this or that, the other thing. And he was persistent. He kind of stayed after me for a while, and he said, "Just do the resume and come in." I hadn't built a resume at that point because I'd been Killington for 24 years, right?
Sure.
So I was like, all right, I got to change this little thing I sent to
Add a couple
Steamboat.
things
Right, add a couple things, send it to this guy, and so then that Friday we met. Meanwhile, I'm trying to coach the athletes and act like we're still committed to Killington and the whole deal. And so that Friday, we had met, and he said, "Okay, we want to bring you on as the C team coach." And so I kind of mulled about it, and I left this Project Gold, went up to Whistler to work camp up there with Glenn. So
PSI.
We did this Project Gold ramps, and then we went up to PSI, and so I remember being at PSI. It was actually 4th of July in summer of 14. Sherm called and said, "Hey, do you want the job?"
Yeah, very cool.
And so I said, "All right, I'll take it."
Yeah.
And
Steamboat had to be bummed.
I hated it. I absolutely hated the C team job.
Oh, really?
I absolutely hated it. Like ready, like.
And what were the reasons why for the?
I loved the athletes.
Okay.
I loved the coaching. I loved every part of it. I hated where I was in the work world, right? Like I had been in charge of my own programming for so long, it was really difficult to go back and work for someone else.
Gotcha.
And so
not your vision.
Yeah,
kind
and so it was really difficult. And I remember finishing the season, and I was at USASA Nationals with my sons, and they were competing, and my mother was there to no, she wasn't there. Okay. And my phone rang, and it was Sherman. He said, "Hey, any chance you can be here tomorrow?" And I was like thinking of quitting. I'm trying to decide what to do. And I was like, shit, how am I going to do this? I got my kids here. And then I'm like, oh man, and they're competing.
Right, navigating all that, yeah.
And I said, let me call you back. And I called him back, and he said, no, I need you here tomorrow. Like you really don't have a choice. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm getting fired. I'm going to go there and get fired. So this decision just became easy.
Right.
So I called my mother back in Massachusetts. I said, I'm going to pay for you to fly out. You're going to fly to Denver. I'll pick you up. I'll drop you off at Copper. You manage the boys. They were young at the time. And I've got to drive back to Park City, and then I'll drive back later that night. And so I get here, and I went into the co, and Todd was in his office, and we kind of like waiting around. And then he gave me the come on in. And I was like, all right, well, here comes doomsday, right? And he said, we want to ask you to be the head coach. And I was like, oh. Okay, I'm going to need 24 hours to think about this now because this is a totally different thing, and so I did. I drove back to Colorado.
At least you have a long 9-hour drive to
so now
Copper,
I've got
right?
this
To really
drive
kind of
where
mull
you're just
that
like,
over.
What do I really want to do?
Sure.
How do I want to do this? And so we finished the event in Copper, and I sent the kids back east with my mother, and then I drove back out here and knocked on Todd's door and said, "All right, I'll take the job."
Very cool.
I never told them I was really there to quit. That way, like I was debating to quit, and I thought I was there to get fired. But so that was how I ended up head coach. So That started that was after the 14-15 season.
Okay.
So that was my first year was 15-16.
15. So pretty quick. I mean, one
Yep.
winter and then kind of switching into that role. And how difficult is that transition when it really becomes your vision and everything else? I think it's always hard. Like, I feel like you always have the people throwing rocks at the, kind of like, oh, if I was there, I'd be able to do this, that. And then like, once you're in those shoes, I feel like there's so many different fires you have to put out or different things to navigate, especially in the US, because you have so many pillar programs that have so many different opinions and there's so
Right.
many like variables going in there. And then obviously that's just from the countryside. And then you obviously have your A team, B team, D team, where you're worried about getting medals and results and everything else. Like, I feel like that's a lot to kind of be able to juggle. And are you really juggling that in the head role, or is Todd kind of looking over at that point, trying to deal with the whole U.S. and you're just there? Hey, you just worry about the guys that you have, get the best results that you can with the kids you got.
It felt like once you took the role, it felt like the dump truck just emptied right into your lap. Here it all is, right? Like
Right.
I remember one of my first calls as head coach was to Eliza Outram.
Okay.
Right, like
Yeah.
decorated
Right.
mogul
Yeah.
skier, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Phenomenal mogul skier. And the call was basically, "Hey, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna keep skiing? Are you gonna like
Yeah.
don't want to rush you out the door, but also we're trying to build a team for the future and all that."
Figure
And
out
so
next steps.
that was your first eye-opening experience
Mm-hmm.
of like, whoa, this is way more than just coaching, right?
Sure.
And you talk about the stone throwing and all that kind of stuff. Very easy to do from the outside,
Right, exactly,
Like, and
yeah.
having been a guy who probably held a few stones in his hand, too, back when other people were in that seat, you were quick to go, oh shit, like I had no clue
Yeah.
what I was throwing stones at until now I sit here.
Right.
And funny because I see Rawls every now and then, and one of the things I'll say to him every now and then is like, you bastard, like you never left me the manual, right? Like where was the manual
Right,
that
of
said,
having- yeah.
this is how you navigate all this bullshit, right? Like,
Yeah.
and not all of it's bullshit, but
Sure.
every now and then there's just some tough situations that come up, and there's no manual on how to navigate it. There's no policy written. There's not much of anything. And so I would say one of my biggest takeaways within probably the first 60 days of being the head coach was I figured out pretty quickly on that now as the head coach, I have access to all these resources. And how do I utilize my resources to formulate a mega team, a
Right.
master team, right? And
Yeah.
and I always, as a professional sports fan, right? Like I grew up in New England, and
Right.
Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics, Patriots, right?
Yep.
Like that. Those were my teams. So I started thinking like, okay, if we were the Red Sox, if we were the Patriots, I would have a strength coach. I would have someone coaching jumps. I would have a men's coach. I would
Sure.
have a women's coach. And so I started to build out staffs that way. And it worked for a long time. It got met with a lot of resistance because
Sure.
that wasn't really the norm at that point in time. Like it was just starting to become kind of a thing.
Okay.
Like people were very used to hiring a mogul coach,
Right.
similar to like what we all grew up coaching.
Yep.
You did it all.
You
right?
did it,
Like
yeah,
when
you
I
did
was
everything.
the KMS
Right.
coach, you did it all. You coached the moguls, you coached the jumps, you brought them to the weight room, you ran the stretch.
Yep.
You did the warm up,
You
you
did it.
drove the van, you cooked the meals, you registered the events, you booked the travels.
Right.
And when you got to the team, I think my biggest mistake in the beginning was trying to do that and not learning how to utilize your staff and,
Sure.
and your team around you. And so as I figured that piece out, like, oh, we've got this ability to utilize our resources, that's when it became, really enjoyable to me,
Gotcha.
Like I would say probably the best staff I had assembled at that point was my good buddy Chuck was the PT.
Okay.
Chuck became the
Yep.
PT.
Yep.
Funny, 12 hours, not even 12 hours into being the head coach, our former medical director Kyle Wilkins came into a meeting with Todd and I, and he put his arm around me. I'm like, oh, what's this about? And he goes, I've got someone for you. We're going to give Moguls its first full-time PT. He's going to be with the team full time.
Full time.
And it's Chuck. And Chuck had been with us, on a couple trips. It used to be like you'd take a PT, do a trip.
Right. Or
they would do a week
yeah.
in a World Cup. And so, but a lot of the other teams in the organization had full-time PTs. So now Moguls was getting a full-time PT. And the rest of the staff despised Chuck. They thought Chuck was the worst thing ever. And they were like, "Hells no, we're not taking that guy. He's horrible. He's miserable." And I'll never forget, Kyle squeezed me tight and he says, "You can take him, Gnoza, and you're going to take him." And I said, "All right, I'll take him," right? We're not even 12 hours in the seat.
Right, perfect.
I'm not going to say no. And it worked out to be one of the best things that ever happened to the team when Chuck was there.
Absolutely. I mean, all the athletes absolutely adored Chuck.
He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. And then we had Caleb. Caleb was coaching the Moguls, right? We had Lance. Lance was doing the jumps then.
Yeah.
And then I was able to bring in a strength coach. Josh Bullock came in, and Josh ran the strength, and that was kind of our core team.
Yeah.
That really kind of kicked it off. Over the years, that kind of changed a little bit. Like Lance went out, and some other coaches came in.
Sure.
Josh stuck around for a while, but Vlad came in to coach the jumps.
Okay.
So we had some changes and stuff, and then it kind of dissolved after that. Like wasn't able to build the experts in each area as much.
Gotcha.
There was a lot of resistance to that, and a lot of people wanted you to go back to just hiring a mogul coach.
Gotcha.
Right, and so we went through a couple years where we hired just mogul specific coaches that were gonna do it all. Right, they were gonna do the strength, they were gonna do the turns, they were gonna do the jumps. They were gonna video and
run everything,
video replay and stuff like that. And I think that was probably a period of time in my head coach role where we actually took a step back for a couple of years. So I think we took a little bit of a step back in that. And I remember I was always upset with myself for it because I wasn't true to my philosophy of surrounding myself with a team of experts, right? Like
Gotcha.
I felt like that was, like as the head coach, that was one of my philosophies was I want to bring people in that are better than me.
Okay.
So that makes everybody better, right? Like I really believed in that. And
sure.
That was always kind of my mission with that was to go out there and find people and bring them in.
To be able to lift.
Yeah. If I thought people were great, like I wanted them on my staff. I mean, when I was in the head coach role, I would have gave my right arm to hire Des to be a coach of my staff, right? Like I would have signed up for that in an instant.
In a heartbeat, yeah.
And so when that opportunity finally became available, I was like, this is just freaking unbelievable.
Right.
I can help build this group. And, when we were able to transition from myself and after 22, when it went from, I had brought Brian on a couple years before to kind of get him used to the feel of things, knowing that I probably wasn't going to stick around much after 22 in that role. Like I had in the meantime, I got married and was living back in Vermont, and I was like, I just don't want to be on the road this much. I didn't know what I was going to do yet.
Right.
I actually applied to be an Alpine program director
at
a small ski resort in Vermont.
Okay.
Didn't actually get that job, but in the meantime, I got offered to be the sport director.
Okay.
Right, and so Brian was groomed up, so that was pretty easy decision to kind of move him into the head coach role. He's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And kind of taking the reins for that. We were able to bring in a young guy like Josh that had some coaching experience, but was obviously come from a great coaching pedigree.
Absolutely.
So that to me was another no-brainer. But I always wanted to bring in that like one more veteran to that staff, right? Like someone, I always modeled that to me after like NFL staffs, right? Like you've got these new young head coaches, but if you really look behind the scenes, they've got veteran coaches guiding them on their staffs. They might be up in the booth. They might just be in meetings. They might just be a consultant, but they always had that. And so that was when, to me, I was able to get back to kind of my philosophy of continuing to build a team of experts around me to support and kind of lift
give you that insight, been there before, kind of done that.
So we're back. We've got a full-time strength coach now with the team. We actually just made another shift within the freestyle department, I was able to add another strength coach. So aerials now has their own strength coach, and moguls has
Okay.
their own,
Yeah.
because I think that's just so very important piece.
Right.
Brian kind of oversees the women's group. Des oversees the men's group. There's some, mix and match.
Right. Obviously, there's going to be
some pieces
crossover.
and stuff, and
yeah,
then
sure.
Josh kind of serves both of those guys and has a little group of his own and stuff. So there's a pretty good dynamic in there.
Yeah.
But continue on that. I mean, I don't. If you got more questions,
I got plenty. No. But,
I can keep going, but
Yeah.
to continue on that mentality, that's what we're doing now with National Development Group.
Sure.
So National Development Group was kind of my brainchild. Probably stemmed mostly from aerials and having conversations with those guys about how to rebuild that sport and how to get more athletes in. And so then I started thinking about ways, and they all wanted to duplicate the it used to be called the EDAP program.
Okay.
It was an Eastern Aerial Development Program. It was based out of Lake Placid. And that's where a lot of the athletes that are currently on the team, Kayla, Quinn, right? I won't name them all, but Winter, right?
Like, all came out of that.
They actually, I don't think Winter did so, but a bunch of them came out of that program. And so it was like, okay, that was obviously successful. If I look at what those guys are doing now, I can't duplicate it exactly.
Right.
It just, the world has changed.
Yeah.
But how can I become close to it? And so that was where we kind of had this group. And so as I was designing that for aerials, I was like, well, why wouldn't I just cut and paste and make something similar for moguls? And so that's kind of our vision for helping athletes get prepared for the games here in 2034,
right.
when they return to Park City. Is like, how can we continue to guide athletes and then utilize that program to be collaborative with their sending programs, their home programs.
Right, with the club teams, collaborate.
Yeah, and we've got to improve that piece. Like we have a debrief call after every one of our camps with those coaches.
Okay.
And I offer it to the parents too, so parents can come on, ask questions, and what it is that we covered, because even this week I'm in town for a ramp camp with Moguls Development Group, Moguls NDG. We've only got 6 days on the ramps, right? And so anyone that's really worked, if you're really making a change in your jumping, it's as Vlad always says, it's a big project, Matt, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
This is a big project. You're not going to fix this in 6 days.
Right.
This is a big project, and so the goal is to increase everyone's IQ, right? Like that's my mission now, is to bring in what I kind of call our subject matter experts. Increase everyone's IQ so that they can have a better understanding of what they need to do to help themselves make the next steps. Right. And so we started with our flats camp, and this is a program I'm looking forward to building on. We were able to, in our flats camp, I brought in 2 PSIA examiners. Didn't know shit from Shinola about World Cup mogul skiing. Right. And they were,
but it's a totally different lens, right? Total outsiders to come in.
And talking to them and getting this set up, they're like, wow, we're not sure we're right. And I remember going like, no, you're exactly what I want. I don't want you to come in and just teach this, twist my hips, twist my feet, and slide down the mogul course. I want you to come in and teach real carving skills. These are phenomenal athletes that are phenomenal skiers. They'll have those skills anyhow. Right. But I want to take those skills and try and increase them even more. And you guys are the best ski instructors in America. Right. Like if not the world. I mean, I don't know what their world rank is, but they were some of the best. And I was like, this is what I want. And so I was able to bring 2 in, and it wasn't nearly enough. We could have done 20 days, and it would have been awesome. Like we ended up with two days with them only. So it was a quick intro. But you started to see like where some of our challenges are in American mogul skiing. Like you started to see that we've got a group coming up through the ranks, and we ski a lot by twisting our hips, right? Rather than skiing from our legs down. Or the bottom of our hips down, and utilizing our legs and actually putting a ski up on edge, and what that feels like rather than just twisting, right? And we've, like I said, we've got phenomenal athletes. They all had phenomenal skill. But
To
just
be in part of the D group, right? It wasn't not just like
so
anybody. You're not taking anybody.
the feedback from the PSIA guys was phenomenal because they were like, we've never worked with people that have made adjustments so quickly.
Sure.
So you were like, well, that says a lot about what our clubs have done with these athletes.
Right.
It was just, like you just mentioned, it was just hearing it from a different lens, increasing their knowledge, increasing their ski IQ, right? Like, we partnered with Carve a little bit, the app. We're trying to work on that because of exactly what that does too, right? Like it's kind of funny. My mentality was to increase their ski IQ, and Carve is based on ranking you based on your ski IQ.
Interesting.
And it will give you feedback based on
how
what you're, are you skiing a flat ski, or you put it on edge, on an early edge, or like.
And it's able to tell if you're able to get it on early edge or late.
It's pretty able to tell that, and that it became. This whole project became because Carve had given a couple things to the ski team. We were trying them out here and there.
Okay.
I threw some in my boots. I was like, I'll try this thing.
Yeah.
And also it was like, wait a minute, what this thing is saying in my head makes a ton of sense.
Interesting.
But like it was coaching. You would ski with it, you get on the chair, and it would give you some feedback. Hey man, you should try to tip your boots, i.e. like you're rocking a canoe or something, right? Would give you some type of drill or some type of thought. It would give you like a really good external cue to focus on, and you would go up and you go, okay, I'm going to try what that thing said. All of a sudden you're like, whoa, wait, like even my skiing at 50 plus years old was getting better. You were like, wow, this is great. Is it phenomenal within the moguls? Not like, if you're ripping the line like Page and Koff and those guys, it's not super accurate there.
Right, can't give you quite that.
They're working on it, and we'll help them gather that data. But the real focus of it is to just help improve our skiers. And if you have it set up, there's all kinds of different settings within it. But if you have it set up right, you're never skiing as mindlessly as you might. Right. Getting off the lift, you're kind of just puttering down. Right.
And that's harder and harder to get their attention, especially nowadays, right?
And so this thing kept you honest. You were like, wait, that was just a whole bunch of shitty, lazy ass turns.
Right.
With my backpack on down to the course, or I just didn't care. I just wanted to get there.
Yeah.
I see that from the top of the chair to the top of the course, an opportunity to continue to work to get better.
100%.
Right? Like to me, you're going to work on your skiing. You could be going up for your Olympic gold medal run, and you should be working on your skiing from the top of the chair down to the start, right? Like you should be thinking about whatever your one big thing is that's going to make the biggest difference as you go down for that Olympic gold medal. And so this app kind of kept you just as honest. It was saying, okay, hey Matt, try this. Hey Matt, try that. And so we built, I would say we're still building that relationship with them, but getting this on some of the athletes, getting people to ski with it.
A little bit of testing, right? And to be able to.
And to me, if you get motivated by it, maybe your team's not offering training on this random Tuesday afternoon, but you could throw this app in your boot and you can go out and ski and you get better. You'd get better.
Right.
And I think the goal, if I had to theme what that goal was, it was we focus on creating mogul skiers, right? And so in my mentality, we're trying to switch that a little bit. We're trying to create skiers of the moguls, right? So rather than create mogul skiers, we want to create skiers first, and then go, hey, good skier, here's some moguls over here. Take those ski skills and go into those moguls, and everything just happens in more micro movements. Right. Everything's shorter.
Well, that's
quicker.
Also kind of how it was, at least like when I started skiing, at least, and I started to get into the sport. It wasn't like you're just sitting in that rut at the bottom of the mountain. You learned basics, you skied the whole mountain, 9, 10, 11. It wasn't just about being in the moguls, and I feel like that's one of the things that's really transitioned, because especially at that high level, I mean, World Cup courses are specific to World Cup skiers, even from a NORAM course to a regional course. I mean, so there's definitely that learning curve there for that top echelon, but like you are able to become such a better mogul skier by being a skier first. I mean, Joey Cordeau, Sun Valley Mogul, I mean, we raced around the hill, we did gates, we kind of go around and had a bunch of different stuff that. So when you're skiing, mogul skiing career, however long or short that may have been, like you could rip any part of the mountain and not be like nervous and be able to just ski anything. And that helps with the mogul skiing. It helps with, kind of build everything in together.
Right.
Touching back on some of the new additions and everything with the development group and everything else, I mean, it seems like you have a great amount of communication, which I feel like is always one of the biggest things in coaching, is being able to communicate and being able to have those different voices coming in. So maybe this is what it's going to be to get that light bulb to go off, right?
Right.
You never know. I mean, my biggest thing is I can't fix problems I don't know about. So I'd much rather over communicate than under communicate to be able to fix what the issue is. Then you have all these great expert voices being, hey, maybe this is going to get the light bulb to go off for you to like, oh, that's one of the great things I think about coaching, right? Is that not everyone is the same. It's not a one size fits all.
Right.
Like everybody's able to learn a different way, and it's a different kind of trick, right? You got to have more than one arrow in the quiver to be able to figure out, all right, what's going to work for him, what's not going to work for him, what's not going to work for her. So it sounds like you're definitely on the right track with having that huge level of communication, allowing the coaches to get that debriefing, the parents, and so it seems like it's going to be a bright future for that group for sure.
Working hard, right? Like as this year 4 in the sport director seat for US Ski and Snowboard. And one of the big things to move forward is to get people to focus on. I can no longer say it hasn't rung, but my phone's only rung once from someone wanting to talk about how to ski better. Right? Tons of calls complaining about judging or ranking systems or quality of events or something, but nobody calling to say, hey, how does my kid in 50th get to 5th? How does my kid in 50th go to 20th, right? Like, ski better, jump better, get stronger, right? Like, so those are the conversations.
Right.
That's my mission, is to get to a point in the sport where we're having more of those conversations as a sport, where we're coming together more as a sport that talks about how to create better athletes.
Right.
When we have better athletes, the results, the rankings, all that kind of stuff it's going to take care of itself. Yeah. Like those things will be there. We won't have to worry about ranking lists. We won't have to worry about FFSP points or whatever else it is. We worry about the other things. Like when you meet with people within the freestyle community, like in the domestic community, probably below the NORAMs, very focused on rankings and all that kind of stuff. And you tell them, hey, well, Nick Page doesn't really look at the FFSP points, or Jalen doesn't look at and they're like, oh, bullshit, right? Like, yeah, of course they do. You're like, no. They might look at their World Cup standing, especially if they're in contention for a globe.
For a globe, exactly.
And with Nick, with third in the men's, like, they knew where they were in that world. But they also knew, I would say, one of the things athletes sort of figure out over time, and this is where we want to get to in the younger aspects of the sport or in the developmental areas of the sport, is they knew they were only going to be in contention for that globe or in contention for top 3 overall like Nick and will be in the running for a globe hopefully this year. If they ski better, if they get stronger, if they jump better, if they do the things that will give them that opportunity, right? And so one of my philosophies has always been to I think sometimes we have a tendency to overcoach.
Sure.
And so you mentioned like this knowledge. I'll narrow things down to one or two, what I call like the one or two big things, and then I'll try and find 10,000 different ways to
give you the two.
On those one or two big things. It's all trying to come back to the same thing.
Sure.
Like if I know you need to increase your pressure skills or your edging skills, I might talk about it 10,000 different ways. But I know I'm all my paths are leading back to helping you improve that one area, whether it's in a jump or a turn or something like that. So that's been one of the things, and it goes back to like what Vlad says, our head aerial coach, like these projects are big projects to make changes, right? And especially for athletes in our sport, they climb the ladder pretty quickly. It's a small sport, right? Like, and so you can climb the ladder pretty quickly. You go from club stuff to your divisional championships.
Sure.
Once you make your divisional championships, then your goal is to make the
Off to-
juniors.
right.
And once you make the juniors, then
It's
your goal is to make nationals.
Yep,
Then you
absolutely.
go to nationals, you make the NORAMs, right? And you can see how many athletes matriculate through the system pretty quickly. And so you feel, when that happens, you feel like, oh, I must be on the right track. Everything's working. And with that, at times you bring some bad habits along with you.
Right.
Like it's good enough to be dangerous, right? Like it's good enough to get you there, but it's not good enough to get you to the top.
Right.
And that's probably our biggest challenge, I think, as a nation, is to continue to work, keep the focus on the skills and what's going to make the biggest difference to get, like, you'll get there if you're good enough. I don't, it's funny, like, you get to a point in your career, you don't worry about that stuff.
Right.
And you see it happen with the athletes. Like, there's a whole group of kids in America that aren't worried about making the NORAM.
No.
They know they're NORAM
They're working on
skiers,
some skills, and they know
hopefully
that
they're working on skills that will put them in contention for a NORAM overall. Or your Page and Koff and Giacchio and Johnson and all these other guys, Mickle and Michael and all these guys, right?
Trying to,
You're focused on making your skills better so you can produce better on a World Cup.
Right.
And so that's where we've got to get the rest of the nation focused around. And it's hard. It's a hard thing.
Right.
Because you're justified when you make your juniors. You're justified when you make your nationals, right? But we don't want people going just for the hat and the T-shirt.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. I qualified my
you
first junior nationals in duels only. And my dad was like, I'm not fucking sending you to juniors to get when you fully make like an actual, like, then maybe we'll talk about it depending on where it is. But just duels, no thanks.
Yeah. So it's hard because working on it is right. Like developing skiers can get boring, right? Like
that's the hard balance too, right? Like, especially if you think about water ramping, or it's a great spot, right? You're working on your jumping skills, everything else. No one wants to do like 5,000 back tucks in a row. No. It's hard to keep like a 10-year-old interested in the sport when really they're able to have that time to be able to kind of build those skills. It's really hard to be able to do that when it would be perfect. So that's like hard to balance of when, okay, go have fun, like move on. But and then later on, you're going to have to go back at some point and work on those skills to really carry over into some of those more difficult tricks and everything else, right?
And that's our biggest challenge against the other international teams, right? Like our system moves you up pretty quickly. You can bring some bad habits with you. You can get to a point where you feel justified, you feel good. You would want more, but you're like, okay, I maybe even earned a World Cup start.
Right.
But you weren't even close to a podium, right? Like everyone's got to matriculate and get better and get experience. Don't get me wrong on that. But even if they skied their best run, they were light years away from that. And so how do we set up a better system that helps athletes advance but gets really focused on the skills, right? And that's kind of the process we're in now. I think we've hit a point in some of the adjustments we made this past spring in our domestic system, where we've got our field sizes and we've got our groups down a little bit more. It can be more result focused now rather than just kind of qualification focused.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the two big events in the U.S. selections and nationals.
Right.
Like those are the two big melting pot events where the athletes come together. They get these opportunities to prove themselves against everyone else. Right.
No, absolutely.
Doesn't much matter. Like your success in your division gets you to those opportunities. Your success at those opportunities will open the door for more opportunities. And that's kind of my multi-tiered system that we're trying to get ourselves to, right? And so then you talk about on-ramps and off-ramps, right? And there's plenty of on-ramps so people can come in and still make it. I mean, we're one of the only sports in the organization where Olympic opportunities open, right? If you're going to U.S. selections, you have Olympic opportunity. We sent out, we were the biggest list of Olympic, our Olympic long list, biggest list in the entire organization. And on purpose, right? Like, because we want people to believe that opportunity is still there.
Right. And historically it has happened. I mean, you look at how many over the years have come through at selections and then just...
So I've worked hard to keep that opportunity open. it's there. So someone
Right.
can go to selections, do well, get to the World Cup, do phenomenally well, and potentially propel themselves to the Olympics. Um, so that's super important to me. But also, once you know you have those opportunities, now you should be able to focus on what's going to get you that success.
Right.
Right. It's going to be being stronger. It's going to be skiing better. It's going to be jumping better. It's going to be all
Right.
of those things that then you can take advantage of that opportunity. And,
Right.
hey, so
And
up to you at that point.
Right. I think it can be difficult with some of the parents in the U.S. I think especially with how unique our sport is. It's one of the few sports where as soon as you start, you can be on the chairlift with an Olympic gold medalist.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not like you're just playing basketball to court and Michael Jordan's there. You can literally go from that to being on a chairlift with Kingsbury or whoever else. So I think and it's one of the great things about our sport, right? You have that access, but at the same time, I think from a parent's perspective, they see how like, oh, this person's right here. Like it's really easy to go to the Olympics. It's really easy to win U.S. nationals and like
Yep.
all these different things. So I think that almost propels the parents to be like, okay, just compete, just do, and then you're getting blown up with phone calls about people just worried about the ranking systems and everything else, kind of taking away from just worry about the skills and hey, maybe the results and being the next Kingsbury or Nick Page or whatever else on the chairlift there. I mean, I think that's a tough one in our sport. It's pretty interesting. Like we're in Lavinia or St. Moritz for world champs and everything, and you have just a bunch of randos just on the lift with you, and you're like, yeah, this doesn't nobody's just on the lift with Tom Brady,
Right.
Like it's so it is one of those unique things.
Yep.
I think even in Alpine, you don't have just random people getting on the lift with the Alpine. I think it is one of those unique things about our sport, which is awesome because I think you can reach those 8, 9, 10-year-olds and really like bring them into the sport. I mean, that's how part of the reason I was dragged in was because of that. And so it's amazing, but at the same time, I definitely think that could be a challenge for being able to kind of temper some of those expectations and not just being about the rankings and kind of that next thing as you move forward,
Yeah, no, right. Like you might be at the Deer Valley World Cup and be asked to escort kids in ski school up on a training day, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like I've seen it happen. I've seen things like that happen.
Yeah.
And so that proximity makes our sport super accessible when people want that. Like I think it's phenomenal. When the athletes are in the pipeline, I think what happens is you talk about the on ramps and then you talk about the off ramps where people are getting off in the sport or kind of stepping away from it. And it's usually because they've kind of hit this plateau or this ceiling where they're like, I'm just not going to get any better.
Yeah.
And they've probably lost the fun, right? Like
sure.
I think they've lost
on some level, right?
The fun of it. And if you can get focused on the skill development, I think you could ski for a long time and it could be fun. Like I think about a guy like Walzak, right? Like still working to master that turn, like phenomenal turner, like great technical skier. Still working to master that turn. Still looking for that 20-point turn. Right. Like out there every day. That's his. The
judges
goal.
should give him out more. They used to give out 5-0s back in the day. They should be giving out some 20s.
They should. But
yeah. But I think that's interesting as well. I mean, like you can tell from Dylan and a lot of these guys on the team or Matt Graham, Jakar, none of them are like bitter at all. And I think that's one of the things that's interesting as you transition out of sport. And I don't know that it's specific to mogul skiing. I mean, obviously know it very well. And a lot of people in the sport seem to leave bitter. And it's one of those things, if you could just keep half that leave, because I mean, pretty much there's only, well, I guess now there's 2 people that win gold medals, right? 2 girls, 2 guys winning gold medals at the next Olympics. Everyone else is a loser. And everyone else is leaving bitter at some point, right? They didn't achieve everything that they wanted to, and so I think that's a really difficult thing to try to navigate. Some people, especially because there's not a ton of money in it, right? So as you try to figure out like what would be some of the best ways to keep people in, and I think focusing on skills, focusing on those things, because I mean it's tough to. I just knew that I just wasn't good, tried the best that I could, wasn't good enough. And I'm all right with that. I'm happy. Still love the sport. Still I think it's one of the most exciting sports that there is. Love being a part of it and love the journey through life that it teaches you not only lessons on comp day, but lessons that you're able to carry on for life, you know? So it's a tough, difficult thing to navigate, you know? Why is everybody so bitter?
Yeah, I think it's the athletes that I've been around in my 10 plus years with the team. If they had an exit strategy, seems to go really smoothly. Right. Seems to go really smoothly.
Yeah, Murphy doesn't seem too bad.
Yeah, right. Like someone like that, like that came and had an exit plan, and they knew what they wanted to do when it was over.
Right.
And then there's another group that is all in on the sport, which I think is good.
Right.
But then all of a sudden the sport taps you on the shoulder and says, well, you kind of just said there, Bobby, right? Like, you're just not good enough. Like it's just not good enough yet. And there's other people coming in that are going to get opportunity, which then pushes you out. And that's where some of that bitterness comes, right? Like everyone wants to be able to leave on their own terms.
Sure. Yeah.
And when you can control those terms, like we'd all love to be able to control those terms.
Right.
But you can't, right? Like your results kind of control those terms.
And that's in every sport, right?
Sure.
Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, all those guys want to go out. Roger Federer wanted to go out, and the Disneyland fairy tale ending, like no one really gets that. Tiger Woods, right?
Yeah, and so when you have that exit plan, I think it's much easier for these athletes, right? And so working, we've got a long way to go, but getting the sport recognized more collegiately, I think is important. We'll make some small steps this year for that.
Okay, very cool.
Just giving athletes the ability to designate and work to promote more that, hey, they're at the University of Utah, they're at CU Boulder, they're at University of Vermont, wherever these athletes could be from. Give a little bit more recognition to that. We are having some small conversations about a collegiate kind of championship day, maybe
very cool.
After juniors or after nationals or something, just whenever there's a course set up, say, hey, anyone who's we'll set up some qualification criteria. So basically once you're enrolled in college, you send your transcript into our development office, we'll put you on a list. And then those athletes would, depending how big that list is, we'll say, okay, the top 50 on that list or the top everyone on that list. We'll see how big it is, gets to come to the collegiate national championships.
Right.
And then the pressure will come back on the athletes and some of the clubs to build those relationships with the college, right? Like we'll give you the platform and then the clubs and the athletes can go to their college athletic departments and say, hey, look, we're representing the school at the national championships. There was 3 of us in the top 10. We did this, they did that. Can you help us out, right? And so can we start to bring it in a little bit that way is kind of the first step, which will help people with that exit strategy.
Yeah.
The other big change I've seen over my years in the sport was COVID. And once more accessibility to online remote education.
Yeah.
Way better. We're seeing a huge increase in athletes that have an exit strategy because they're able to do a better balance, even on an Olympic level stage, right? Like athletes that are chasing Olympic medals are still balancing athletics and academics. And I think we probably don't promote that enough as a sport, right? Like some of the work people like Tess and Olivia on the women's team are doing. Someone like Hannah Soar comes to mind. Like athletes that are graduating college while they're still skiing competitively, and I've left off a bunch.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the same in Australia. All those kids are all, have their degrees, are all going through getting their education and everything else. And that definitely, I think, as you say, alleviates having a little bit of an exit strategy to kind of move on.
I think we can kind of get some of that anti-bitterness down. I think the other big piece on our bitterness historically is better transparency in our kind of criteria.
Criteria communication, right?
Communicating about that. I'm going to leave here in 2 hours, hour and a half now, and run a town hall meeting. And we're just going to look at the Olympic criteria. And then later in the fall, we'll look at the World Cup start criteria, and we'll look at the team nomination criteria. And you can either join, you can watch the recording, you can not join, you can not care, but we want to keep getting that message out there, right? Like our coaching staff, right, whether it's aerials or moguls, doesn't have the ability to say, okay, we're going to pick you and you and you and you. It's not a kickball game in gym class where we line you up on the wall and say, okay, we're going to take you, you, and you. You're on the national team. The rest of you bug off.
Yeah.
Like that's not the way it works, right?
Right.
There's criteria. We work with data scientists to kind of create that criteria based on funding scales and based on team size, World Cup field size and team size.
Right.
And then that criteria turns into what you have to meet, right? And I would say in my years here, we've injuries at times have helped us with making what you'd call a discretionary decision.
Sure.
But other than that, like it's strictly criteria based.
Gotcha.
And as we go to the games, it will be strictly criteria based.
Gotcha.
There's a small window for discretion.
Yeah.
But it's basically,
which is great that it's smaller and smaller,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you look back to 98. I think
Yeah.
Jim Moran and Evan Divvig had to sue to go to the Olympics, right? It was just supposed to be Mosley and Wilson, and then some of those criteria has always been, 2002. I know there was the big one, or discretion kind of going through with, who was it? I think Ramos had the same criteria as Divvig, and I mean, this is all rumor and hearsay, but Sprint's one of their biggest partners was Evan at the time, and Evan had no ACLs. He had torn his knee, I think, a few months before or whatever, so he was skiing with no ACLs, and they ended up taking Evan over Ramos, and then Evan obviously ended up getting hurt at the Olympics, but I know that that was a whole big, there's been a few dramas over the years with bitterness, and yes, absolutely, which would just be able to keep in the sport, keep some of those good bodies and some of that good passion, right?
There are, right, like you look at our women's Olympic team, right, and you talk about some of those great men's teams from the years past. There will be athletes that deserve to be at the Olympics that won't make it.
Sure. Yeah.
Just because of the depth of our sport within the country and our women's team and our men's team. I'll say the same, not just women's, men's too. Men and aerials, right? Moguls and aerials. It's not just a moguls problem. It's both problem, and it's not just a moguls aerials problem.
Right. Sure. No, it's a
half pipe problem. It's a slope style problem. It's that kind of problem, right? Like doing some forecasting for the Olympics, looking at our World Championship results, right? Like, and I'm looking at the master lists. We had sport disciplines have athletes have World Cup podiums and not make St. Moritz World Championships.
Right.
Not necessarily moguls or aerials. We had some misfortune, so it opened up more opportunity. We had athletes that were unfortunately injured that probably well deserved to be there. But that opened up opportunity for other athletes, and they earned those, took advantage of those opportunities and made it. So congrats to them. But other disciplines within the freestyle family, right? And those that don't know, the freestyle family consists of moguls, aerials, half pipe, slope style, and ski cross, right? Ski cross is in there. People forget that. And so those are the disciplines that decide that's out of those athletes, each discipline has a men's and women's opportunity, max team size of 4, but an overall max team size at the Olympic Games of 30. Right. So there's only 30 athletes that can go and represent the USA in those sport disciplines. And that's tough, right? Like, so your race isn't just against your fellow U.S. mogul team members.
Sure.
It's
all
against
the other disciplines
everybody else.
in freestyle.
And we had athletes not make the worlds that had World Cup podiums. We had athletes not make the worlds that top 6 results. We had some make it with just top 6 results. We had some athletes, World Championship field size or max team size goes up to 36. So that fits in a few more. You get to the Olympics, it shrinks to 30, and the race really gets heated. Men, in our men's world, we're already down 3 spots. Good. Right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
No,
absolutely.
But between slope, pipe, and men's aerials, we've got
27 now.
Three men already qualified in, and then in the women's Olympic, we've got 1 woman already pre-qualified in women's moguls. So we're rolling. We're already going. The spots are kind of clicking away. Those are super well deserved. Those athletes qualified for the games already, because they were the top American within the top 3 of the world standings at the end of this past season.
So do you miss coaching? I mean, it seems like you still get a little bit to do it with the D group and everything else, but do you miss?
I've watched a couple of your episodes, right? And I watched the Rob Kober one. I've watched the Bobby
Yeah,
Aldegari
yeah,
one. There's going to be some I missed. But like those two stand out in my mind because you could tell those guys are they're just coaches. When you're a coach,
yeah.
you're always a coach. You
Right.
never stop coaching. So my answer to that is, yeah, of course you miss coaching,
Sure.
right? But you're never not a coach,
Right. No,
right?
absolutely. As you say,
And
you
so
could. Yeah.
you're just doing something different. Like it's as coaches, that's what we are. That's in our DNA. We're teachers, right?
Right.
You
Yeah.
think back to the word coach and where it came from and how it came to be, right? Like coach came from kids in the old days learning from people
Right.
in the coach behind the horse as they went across the country, right? And so that was where the word coach came from. And what was that coach's job, or what was that person's job within that coach car was to teach. And right, so the word coach means right to teach. And so as coaches, we're just constantly teaching, right? And I would say in my philosophy, that's one of the things that just drives you every day. Whether it's, sure, moving your feet off of the jump, or improving your ski technique or something like that. Yeah, that motivates you. But coaching's more than that, as you know, right? It's relationship building. It's relationship building and relationship repairing. It's constant. It's always teaching, always evolving, and that's what makes it fun.
Now, speaking to some of those, I mean, you've had a long career, obviously coaching and everything. What are some of those failures or setbacks? Everybody always likes to talk about all the successes and everything else, but what are some of those failures that ended up down the road propelling the successes, if any come to mind?
Well, I would say as an athlete, when I was trying freestyle, like I wasn't that good, right? And so there was always that piece, right? Like I loved it, and so I'm always kind of chasing that piece of it. Like if I can't do it, I'll teach it,
right?
So
no, absolutely.
There is that piece, I think, is where it all came to be. But then if I looked at individual moments within the coaching career, right? Like you went through your years at Killington. Right, like I could go into my photo albums and show podium pictures of Killington athletes from spot 1 through 10.
Yeah.
Right, and you stood there like a coach, like, hey, look what we just did at the Easter meet or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, but then I also remember years where you just had nothing, right? It was a turnover time, right? Like all these programs come ebbs and flows in every program around the country, and so you had your ebbs and flows. You had your years, you had 10 kids at nationals and 20 at the juniors and cleaned up all these podiums and real easy to write that news story at the end of the year. And then you had the years where it was that you were struggling, right? Like you were just struggling and you were trying to rebuild your program. So every one of those ebbs and flows was another opportunity to get better, right? And what could you learn working with athletes that needed a lot more, right? Like how did you structure your program? How did you structure your training? How were you setting your athlete management plans to move that group to where you ultimately wanted to be? So there was that kind of coming up through the ranks. Look at it like coming on to the national team. I did speak about learning how to utilize your staff. I think when I tried to do it all myself, that was a huge mistake. And so learning how to reach out to other people and build my mentorship around me, right? Like I've got the people, like they know who they are. They get the phone call from Matt 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week, right? Some days it's a 10-minute call. Some days it's an hour and a half call, right? And I'm like, I'm still in the car in the hot sun. I got to get it. Like I got to go, right? Or they say that to you. And so it's like setting up that piece. That's been a big piece. And then I would say there's also some of the smaller little failures that kind of came in. Like I think we've improved our transparency since I became sport director on how we communicate things like criteria and how we go about doing that. Like I'm going to beat that criteria drum and make sure people understand it. Like I've said to the team when we met about it, you can listen to this once and never think about it again, or you can follow my charts that I'll have online
Right.
We'll be tracking Olympic qualification like you and I, guys like you and I probably watch the baseball standings, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
in the old days, I
Absolutely.
used to look in the newspaper. Now
Yeah.
I can click online, right? Like even last night, I was like, oh, Red Sox won 5 in a row. How many games out are they? Oh, wow, look at that, right?
Right.
Like that's what I want it to be like. I want it to be that transparent with those kind of processes. So that was definitely a big learning experience, I think, for us as an organization and me as an individual.
Yeah.
In 22, I was head coach at the time, so I wasn't necessarily
Right.
overseeing the criteria, but I'm taking a lot of the lessons from that and bringing those forward now. So that would be one. And I think the other big one for me is sometimes just to stop talking and listen. And I think at times I have to remind myself of that, but then there's other times like I absolutely love it, like working this week with Vlad on the ramps with our national development group.
Yeah.
You probably ask those athletes, I don't think I've said 15, 20 things to anybody, right? I'm just listening to him coach, and I'm listening to that feedback, and then I'm asking him questions and stuff. So it's listening too. I think I've learned to listen over my years. And then I think one of my strengths is to listen and funny, our old team manager used to call me 24-hour Matt, right? And she'd ask me a question and she'd be like, you need 24 hours, I know, right? And so I'd be like, yep, I do. And I would go home and I would bring it home, sometimes too much, and you would come up with it. And so you would then come out with a really well thought out kind of answer and process and kind of go from there. So those, some small lessons in there for sure.
Yeah.
There's been a ton of other little opportunities with different athletes and different things. There's many an athlete I'd like to go back and apologize to, right? But it was also those opportunities were things that made me better, right? Like I didn't know what I didn't know when I was a young coach. So sure, maybe I'm a little sorry. I could have maybe done a better job for you now if it was 2025 Matt coaching the B team in 1992.
Right.
But that person wasn't the same. Right. And so you want to say sorry, but you're like you were doing the best you could.
Yeah. At that
like
time.
you were just doing the best you could. To me, the biggest thing is we talk about coaching, but to never stop learning. Right. Like that's one of my other strengths. Like I just love to learn and learn from other sports. One of my mentors is that I work with is from the USOPC. They have a coach mentorship program.
Oh, very cool.
And so that's one of the benefits that we get. When I first kind of got into that, I thought, this is useless. This is stupid. And the guy they teamed me up with, he's now the boss of that program, but he was a men's field hockey coach. Right. I didn't even know that was a sport. Right. And I'm like, what am I going to learn from this guy? And he didn't know mogul skiing was a sport either. So he's like, what am I going to learn from this guy? Yeah. I've attended with that Olympic committee too, quite a few coach retreats. Which when you get yourself into a place, I couldn't have done that early on in my career, but now it's something that I've found more time for. Those have been just amazing, right?
Yeah,
like they'll take us to something like Zion. We'll do these professional development things, but then you'll just have these hours of round table discussions.
Very cool.
Of talking about challenges that the figure skating coaches dealt with.
Well, because it all relates, right? It's all interconnected, whether they got skates on or they're throwing a football, basketball, playing field hockey, it all,
100%, right? Like 100%. Like we're working to get our coaches access to I want them to go and just watch an NFL practice. Yeah. Right? Like how are they structuring their practice? What can you take from that and bring to our practices to structure that to get more out of the team, out of the athletes, out of the system? Yeah. And so learning from others, right? Like that's my other big thing. Not really through a lesson, but through experience. I've found that's super, super important piece.
Awesome.
And when we think we know it all, well, then the more we dig, we
the more we find. Absolutely.
I could do with. Yeah. a lot more learning.
Well, I know you got to run. This has been awesome though. I really appreciate you coming on, getting the opportunity to do this. I got more questions to ask too, so we might have to do a round two. But I really appreciate you.
Maybe I'll get the highest views, right?
Yeah. All right, bye everybody.